The old house stood on a hill, dark, imposing. They called it Blackwood Manor.
"I dare you," Ryan smirked, his eyes gleaming in the moonlight.
"Double dare," retorted Emily, her chin held high, though her heart pounded.
They were the only ones left, the rest of their friends having chickened out. The dare was simple. Spend an hour inside the abandoned manor. The wind howled like a banshee, urging them on. Hand in hand, they approached the creaking front door. The air inside was heavy, thick with the scent of decay and dust. It felt as though the house itself was breathing, exhaling years of neglect and abandonment. The walls, once vibrant with life, now stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time, their surfaces marred by the relentless march of decay. Cobwebs clung to every surface, draping the room in a ghostly shroud. The only light came from the sliver of a moon shining through grimy windows, casting eerie shadows that danced across the floor. The furniture, covered in a thick layer of dust, seemed frozen in time, as if waiting for the return of its long-gone occupants. Each step on the wooden floorboards echoed through the silence, the sound amplified by their pounding hearts. The creaking of the wood underfoot was a constant reminder of the house's age and fragility. Every footfall seemed to reverberate through the empty rooms, a haunting symphony of fear and anticipation. They clung to each other, their fear a palpable thing in the oppressive darkness. The bond between them was their only source of comfort, a fragile lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. Their eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of danger, their breaths coming in shallow, rapid gasps. A sudden crash from upstairs made them jump. The sound shattered the silence, sending a jolt of terror through their bodies. It was as if the house itself was alive, reacting to their presence with a malevolent intent. The noise echoed through the halls, a chilling reminder of the unknown dangers that lurked within. Their eyes darted towards the source of the noise, their breath catching in their throats. The darkness seemed to close in around them, amplifying their fear. They could feel the weight of the house pressing down on them, a suffocating presence that threatened to overwhelm their senses. Every creak, every rustle was a potential threat, a harbinger of the unknown horrors that awaited them. They froze, listening intently. The only sound was the creaking of the old house settling around them.
"Did you hear that?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling.
Ryan shook his head, his eyes scanning the shadows.
"Just the wind," he lied, trying to sound braver than he felt.
Just then they heard it again, a soft whisper, like someone sighing right next to their ears. A cold shiver ran down Emily's spine. She could feel Ryan's hand, clammy with fear, clutching hers. Suddenly, a figure materialized at the end of the hallway, tall, gaunt, and draped in what looked like a flowing white gown. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. Ryan stood frozen, his eyes wide with terror. The figure glided towards them, its feet seemingly not touching the ground.
Panic surged through me. I pulled Ryan with all my might and we ran, our footsteps pounding a frantic rhythm on the wooden floor.
We stumbled into a dusty old library, slamming the heavy door shut behind us.
Frantically searching for an escape, Ryan noticed something strange. One of the bookshelves seemed to move slightly when he bumped it. Section 6, the diaries.
With a grunt, he pushed the heavy bookshelf aside, revealing a dark opening behind it.
A secret passage.
They squeezed through the opening and found themselves in a narrow, musty corridor. As they moved deeper into the passage, they stumbled upon a small wooden chest tucked away in a niche.
Curious, they opened it.
Inside, piles of old diaries, their pages yellowed and brittle, were stacked alongside a tarnished silver locket. Section 7. The Truth Revealed. In the dimly lit room, shadows danced on the walls, creating an atmosphere thick with suspense and mystery. The air was heavy with the scent of aged paper and dust, as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for the secrets to be unveiled.
They began reading. The group, huddled together, leaned in closer, their eyes scanning the delicate, yellowed pages of the diary. Each word seemed to pull them deeper into the past, into the life of the woman who had once called this place home.
The diaries belonged to a young woman named Eliza, who had lived in the manor over a century ago. Her handwriting, elegant yet hurried, spoke volumes of her state of mind. The ink, though faded, still carried the weight of her emotions, her dreams, and her sorrows. She wrote of her loneliness, the kind that gnaws at the soul and leaves an emptiness that no amount of company can fill. Her words painted a picture of a life filled with longing and despair, a life where happiness was always just out of reach, her unrequited love for a man and her tragic demise. Eliza's heartache was palpable, her love for a man who never returned her affections a constant source of pain. Her tragic end, shrouded in mystery, left a lingering sadness that seemed to permeate the very walls of the manor. As they turned the pages, a portrait on the wall caught their eye. The group, now fully engrossed in Eliza's story, couldn't help but be drawn to the painting. It was as if the portrait itself was calling out to them, begging to be noticed. It was Eliza, her sad eyes staring back at them. The portrait, though beautiful, was haunting. Eliza's eyes, filled with sorrow and longing, seemed to follow them around the room, a silent testament to her unending grief. And in her hands she held a silver locket identical to the one they had found. The locket, a small but significant piece of her past, held the key to understanding her story. It was a symbol of her love, her loss, and her eternal connection to the manor.
Suddenly, they understood. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, and the group realized the true nature of Eliza's presence. She wasn't just a ghost haunting the manor. She was a soul trapped by her own heartache, unable to move on.
Eliza wasn't a scary ghost. She was a heartbroken soul, forever trapped in the mansion. Her spirit, bound by the pain of her unfulfilled love and tragic end, wandered the halls, a silent guardian of her own memories. The group, now understanding her plight, felt a deep sense of empathy and sorrow for the woman who had suffered so much. They knew that uncovering her story was just the beginning, and that helping her find peace would be their ultimate goal. Section 8, Facing the Fear.
They emerged from the secret passage, back into the hallway.
The ghostly figure was still there, but now it seemed less menacing, more melancholic. Gathering their courage, Emily spoke, her voice soft but clear.
Eliza, we know your story.
The figure turned towards them, her form solidifying, revealing a young woman with hauntingly sad eyes. Tears streamed down her face. Section 9, The Final Farewell. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the old manor. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken words and lingering memories.
"Thank you," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of autumn leaves. Her words carried a sense of relief, a release from the chains that had bound her for so long. The autumn leaves swirled around her as if dancing to the melody of her newfound freedom. "You have set me free." Her form began to waver, becoming more translucent with each passing second. The ethereal glow that surrounded her grew brighter, illuminating the dark corners of the room. It was as if the very essence of her being was being lifted, transcending the physical realm.
A warm light enveloped Eliza, and then she was gone. The room felt different, lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The warmth lingered, a gentle reminder of her presence and the peace she had finally found. The house sighed as if a weight had been lifted. The creaking of the old wood seemed to echo with a sense of relief, a final exhale after years of holding its breath. The wind whispered through the cracks, carrying away the remnants of sorrow and pain. Emily and Ryan walked out of Blackwood Manor into the first light of dawn, forever changed by their encounter with the ghost of Eliza. They held hands, their fingers intertwined, drawing strength from each other. The experience had left an indelible mark on their souls, a story they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. The manor wasn't so scary anymore. In the light of day, it stood as a testament to the power of love and redemption. The once ominous shadows had been replaced by a serene glow, a beacon of hope for all who would come after. It held a kind of peace now, the peace of a story finally told and a soul finally at rest. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the decay that had once permeated the grounds. Birds chirped merrily, as if celebrating the newfound tranquility. The manor, once a place of fear and sorrow, had become a sanctuary of peace and closure. Emily and Ryan knew that they had played a part in this transformation, and as they walked away, they felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The final farewell was not just an end, but a new beginning for all who had been touched by Eliza's story.